Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Yo, did you just hear that? Did you hear what he just said? He said he was disappointed with 35 reps on the bench press. Disappointed. Most of us can't bench press the bar. This man is out here 310 pounds of pure nightmare fuel, cranking iron like it's a warm-up and calling it a bad day. What is going on? What dimension did the Chicago Bears just reach into and pull this human being out of? I'm Fave. This is Favs. And today we are going deep on the most fascinating story to come out of the entire 2026 NFL Draft. I don't care what round he went in. I don't care that he was a sixth-round pick, because the White Rhino, Jordan Vandenberg, might just be the steal of the entire class. And if you sleep on this story, I genuinely feel sorry for you. Strap in, because this one goes all the way back to Johannesburg, South Africa, and it ends in the Windy City, and the journey in between is absolutely unreal. Let's start at the absolute beginning, because context matters here, and the context on this man is willed. Jordan Vandenberg was born on April 12, 2002, in Johannesburg, South Africa. Growing up, he played rugby and cricket. Not football, not basketball. Rugby and cricket. His family moved to the United States when he was just 10 years old. Now think about that for a second. He arrives in America at 10 years old. He doesn't even know what football is. After moving to the US, he played basketball and baseball, but his parents initially opposed the idea of him playing football. They only allowed him to start when he was a high school sophomore. So this man didn't even pick up a football until he was about 15 years old. 15. And he is now a professional NFL player. That's not just a feel-good story. That is a legitimately insane developmental arc that you almost never see in professional football. And even once he started playing, the path was anything but conventional. Vandenberg played 3 years at Providence Christian Academy in Lilburn, Georgia, and he broke the school record for most career tackles. He was a linebacker. Not a defensive tackle, not a defensive end. A linebacker. Big, physical, instinctive, a guy who loved finding the ball and blowing things up. But his body had other plans. He kept growing, kept getting bigger, kept getting stronger. And that forced him into a whole new journey at the next level. So here's where the story gets even crazier. He doesn't get a scholarship out of high school. 0 stars. Walk-on territory. He ends up at Iowa Western Community College. Not Penn State, not Georgia Tech, not a Power 4 school, but junior college. He's playing defensive end, still learning the position, still figuring out who he is as a football player. But his talent was undeniable, and the phone starts ringing. Major college programs start paying attention, and eventually he picks up and transfers to Penn State. Let that sink in, from a walk-on at a junior college to one of the biggest football programs in the entire country. That's a movie right there, before we even get to the NFL. Now, even at Penn State, he was still in development mode. 3 seasons, limited production on the stat sheet, bouncing in and out of the rotation. And here's where Fave's personal opinion kicks in hard. The people who looked at those Penn State numbers and wrote this man off made one of the biggest evaluation mistakes of the pre-draft process. Because while the production was quiet, something else was being loudly discovered. During his time in Happy Valley, Vandenberg earned a spot on the Athletics' prestigious Freaks list, a collection of the most athletically gifted college football players in the entire country. And the numbers that earned him that spot are genuinely not believable. He was bench pressing 455 pounds. He was back squatting 690 pounds. He was running the 40-yard dash in under 4.8 seconds. At over 300 pounds, he had a 31-inch vertical leap. At 310 pounds, I need you to sit with that for a moment. Because those are not football player numbers. Those are superhero numbers. Those are numbers that make defensive line coaches lose sleep in the best possible way. But here's the thing about Jordan Vandenberg that separates him from every other freak athlete who lights up the testing circuit and then disappears. He actually kept getting better. Every single year he laced up cleats. He improved. That is rare. That is genuinely rare. Most guys with elite athleticism coast on their physical gifts and never put in the developmental work to refine their technique and grow their game. Vandenberg is the opposite. He graduated from Penn State in December of 2023 and still had eligibility remaining, and instead of heading to the NFL as a raw prospect, he made one more calculated move. He transferred to Georgia Tech. And that decision changed everything. At Georgia Tech, it all clicked. In his first season with the Yellow Jackets in 2024, he earned second-team All-ACC honors. Not bad for a guy who had spent 3 years as a backup at one of the country's premier programs. Then in 2025, his final college season, he absolutely exploded. He recorded 44 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, which ranked second nationally among all defensive tackles, and 3 sacks. He earned first-team All-ACC honors. He was Georgia Tech's team leader in tackles for loss. He was drawing double teams on a consistent basis. And according to Pro Football Focus, he posted a 79.5 run defense grade in 2025, which for a Bears defense that finished as one of the worst run-stopping units in the entire NFL last season, that number matters enormously. This wasn't a guy who found a soft conference and padded his stats. This was a legitimate interior disruptor, making his presence felt every single week against ACC competition. Now let's talk about his family, because this is where the story gets a whole other layer of crazy that I don't think enough people are talking about. Van den Berg's grandfather, his actual grandfather, Francois Van den Berg, was a competitive bodybuilder who was a 2-time finalist at the Mr. Universe competition. And when was the second time he was a finalist? 1967. And who won the Mr. Universe competition in 1967? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold. The Terminator? The Governator. His grandfather competed against Arnold Schwarzenegger for the title of Mr. Universe. So when people ask where this man's genetics come from, the answer is from a family that was literally competing against Arnold Schwarzenegger for the greatest physique on the planet. His grandmother, Joan, was a national record-setting swimmer. His grandfather was a bodybuilder at the highest level. Jordan Van den Berg didn't just work for this body, he was literally built for it. And then he goes to his pro day and somehow makes the whole thing even more ridiculous. Keep in mind, Van den Berg was not invited to the NFL scouting combine in February, which by the way is an oversight that will age very poorly for whoever made that decision. But he showed up to his pro day and made absolutely sure that everyone in the NFL world knew exactly who he was. He ran a 4.94 40-yard dash at 310 pounds. He had a 36-inch vertical leap. He posted a 9-foot 11-inch broad jump. He ran a 4.19 short shuttle, which was nearly a half-second faster than any other defensive tackle who did attend the combine. He benched 225 pounds 35 times, and then he told reporters he was disappointed with that number. Disappointed. That is the mentality of a man who is never satisfied, never coasting, never comfortable. That is the mentality of a future starter in this league, and Fave is calling it right now. The result of all of that? A perfect 10.0 relative athletic score. For those who don't know, the relative athletic score, or RAS, is a metric that compares a prospect's athletic testing to every other player at their position in the history of the database. A perfect 10 means Van den Berg tested better than essentially every defensive tackle ever measured. Not better than some, not better than most, better than all of them. The last time the Bears drafted a player with that kind of measurable profile at this position, it was a steal, and the Bears knew it. Which brings us to draft day itself, and the Bears front office deserves real credit for how they handled this. General manager Ryan Poles, who had only traded up in the NFL draft one time in his entire tenure before this year, did it twice in a single day at the 2026 draft. The first time was moving up for cornerback Malik Muhammad in the 4th round. The second time was giving up both of his remaining 7th-round picks, numbers 239 and 241 overall, to the Buffalo Bills in exchange for pick number 213. They spent their final 2 selections of the entire draft to move up and get this one player. When a front office is willing to surrender their last 2 picks to grab a guy in the 6th round, that tells you everything you need to know about how they feel about him. This wasn't a throwaway pick. This was a calculated, aggressive move to go get a specific player they believed in. And head coach Ben Johnson was openly thrilled. Johnson has been crystal clear about the culture and character he is building in Chicago. He wants players who are consumed by football, players who don't know what to do with themselves when the game is taken away from them, players who wake up every morning thinking about how to get better. By every account, Jordan Van den Berg is exactly that kind of player. His Georgia Tech defensive line coach described him as a guy who showed highlights of himself and let the tape do the talking. Someone who played with a relentless physical style that reflected exactly what the coaching staff preached every single day. That kind of character alignment with a coaching staff is not an accident, and it's not a coincidence that the Bears prioritized it. Now let's be real about where Van den Berg fits on the current roster, because Fave is not going to sit here and tell you this is a year 1 starter situation, at least not on paper entering training camp. The Bears currently have Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter as their starting defensive tackles, with veteran Neville Gallimore and others behind them. The depth chart is real. The competition is real. And for a player who only has about 8 total years of football experience, which, when you think about it, is absolutely wild, there is still genuine development ahead of him. His ability to read and diagnose plays pre-snap needs to continue improving. His pass rush move repertoire needs to expand. He is still learning the nuances of playing defensive tackle at the highest level, and the jump from college football to the NFL interior is no joke. But here is what makes Fave genuinely excited about this pick, despite all of that. Van den Berg is already learning from the best possible teacher. During his post-draft press conference, he talked specifically about how his Georgia Tech defensive line coach previously served as Grady Jarrett's position coach with the Atlanta Falcons, which means Van den Berg spent 2 full years studying Jarrett's technique on film, watching his coaching tape, learning from one of the most respected interior defensive linemen in recent NFL history, before he even set foot in the Bears facility. He told reporters he idolizes how Jarrett plays and cannot wait to absorb everything he can from him in person. That kind of intellectual approach to the game from a guy with his physical tools, that combination is dangerous. That combination is how late-round picks become long-term starters. And let's zoom out for a second and appreciate the full historical weight of what just happened here. Jordan van den Berg became the first player born in South Africa ever to be selected in the NFL draft. Ever in the entire history of the league. A kid who grew up playing rugby and cricket in Johannesburg, who didn't touch a football until he was a high school sophomore, who walked on at a junior college with 0 scholarship offers. That kid just heard his name called on national television as an NFL draft pick. That is not just a sports story. That is an American dream story. That is a story about what happens when elite genetics, relentless work ethic, and an unbreakable competitive spirit collide. And the Chicago Bears, almost by accident of the late rounds, get to be the beneficiaries of that story. Here's the projection from Fave, and I want you to screenshot this and come back to it in 2 years. Jordan van den Berg is not making a massive impact in year 1. He will be in the rotation, he will be learning, he will be developing, but by year 2, 2027, do not be surprised if this man is competing for a starting job on that Bears defensive line. His athleticism is not just good for a 6th-round pick. His athleticism is elite, period, full stop, at any position, in any round. The Bears desperately need interior pass rush help and run-stopping ability, and they literally could not find a player with more measurable potential to develop in that role anywhere in this draft class. The athletic testing does not lie. A perfect RAS score does not lie. A short shuttle that's nearly a half-second faster than every combine participant at his position does not lie. The White Rhino is coming to Chicago, and the NFC North had better take notice. This is one of those picks that in 3 years Bears fans are going to look back on and shake their heads at how late he lasted. 6th round, a man whose grandfather competed against Arnold Schwarzenegger, a man who played rugby before he played football, a man who walked on at a junior college and clawed his way to a first-team All-ACC selection, a man who scored a perfect 10 on his athletic testing and was still disappointed with himself. That is the mentality. That is the makeup. And that is exactly why the Chicago Bears gave up their last 2 picks in the entire draft to go get him. Bear down, Chicago. The White Rhino has arrived, and things are about to get loud on the interior of that defensive line. This is Fave. This is Favs. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button if this story blew your mind the way it blew mine. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jordan van den Berg is the steal of the 2026 NFL Draft? Are the Bears sleeping on a future star? Let me know down below, because I read every single one. We'll see you on the next one. Don't touch that dial.